Well, hi, my name's Harold, and I'd like to talk to you today about how things used to be. And as you could probably tell by looking, I'm kind of old, so used to be for me when I was a kid was back in the 1940s, 1950s. Uh, I was more or less aware of being a kid probably by 1950 anyway. Uh, Back then, everything was a lot different. I had a lot more freedom than kids have these days. I didn't have much of anything else, but I certainly had a lot of freedom. I lived in a little old town in southern Oklahoma. Well, not in town. We had a farm and ranch, and this was the manor house. Huh? There's three rooms in that house: a front room, a middle room, and a kitchen. And there was several of us living there. That kid right there, you see the little one there? If I can find it, that's me right there. That's me. That's my oldest brother. And that's my mother holding my oldest brother's daughter. And that thing right there, that's the central heating unit. You chunk pieces of wood in there and set them on fire, and it would warm the house, at least part of it, part of the front room. I remember when I was a kid, the side that was warm was the side toward the stove, and the other side was cold. So that's pretty much the way it went. That little house didn't have any plumbing in it. There wasn't any telephone in it. Definitely wasn't any internet. Nobody invented that yet. And basically, the main modern convenience it had was a little bit of electricity and a propane cook stove in the kitchen. And we lived right in the backwoods of Oklahoma, so we had squirrel for breakfast most mornings. It'd be fried squirrel with white gravy. My dad would get up probably around 4:30, which was his usual getting up time. He'd go down in the woods with a 12-gauge shotgun, and he would shoot enough for breakfast and come back and clean them, and my mother would cook them and wake me up. And I really enjoyed it. It was good eating to me. I was 8 years old before I found out everybody didn't have fried squirrel for breakfast. That's I guess neither here nor there. When I was a kid, squirrel hunting was a big thing, and when I got to be 6 years old, my dad had let me take the family 22, which looked exactly like this. This isn't it. I was dumb enough to sell the real one. This is a copy of a Winchester 62, and you can see it's not loaded. So, safety Nazis spare me that. There's no loaded weapons in the video, and no rednecks will be accidentally shot. But he'd let me, when I was 6, he'd let me take this 22 and go down to the woods and squirrel hunt. I didn't get a lot of them, but me and the dog would spend the day wandering around out in the woods, one place to another. And nobody worried about perverts. They couldn't have found us out in the woods anyway. It was a whole different time. I guess now if some kid found some kid was wandering around in the woods with a 22 and a dog, they'd probably arrest the parents and put the kid in some godforsaken child care place, and it'd make the national news probably. But it was different then. We moved from Oklahoma out to West Texas, and if you've ever been there, you know that English sparrows are a plague on the place. And we were trying to raise chickens so we could have eggs and fried chicken on Sunday. And the stupid sparrows were eating more chicken feed than the chickens. So my dad would give me a quarter every week to buy 22 shorts so I could shoot the sparrows. And out of 50 bullets in that box, I probably got 40 sparrows. I doubt it made any difference at all on the population of the sparrows. They sure didn't seem to let up any. And I think my dad finally gave up on raising the chickens because feeding chickens and sparrows was just too expensive. But I would go to school. I guess I was in the third grade. And there was a mom and pop store, one on the south side of the school and one on the west side. And one on the west side always had some 22 shorts. And I'd go over there at lunch with my quarter, get a little box of 22 shells. Nobody cared. I'd go back to school and put them on my desk. Nobody cared. Nobody bothered it. And come time to go home in the evening, I'd put them in my pocket and away I would go. Today, they looked around and found a kid with a box of 22 shells on his desk, they'd lock down the school and call the SWAT team, arrest the store owner and put him in jail. Same thing to your parents, arrest them, haul the poor kid off somewhere, some godforsaken foster home, and all for nothing in my viewpoint there. But of course, when I was a kid, we weren't shooting each other. You know, we didn't go to school, and the most we had was a fist fight. I got into a lot of those, but that was it. You know, nobody was stabbing each other. We weren't shooting each other. Nobody, as far as I know, never even thought of doing something like that. That was sort of the unthinkable. And nowadays, of course, things are different. But I enjoyed a freedom that very few kids today could possibly have. Maybe somebody living out in the back end of Montana or Colorado or something, maybe they still got that sort of thing, but I don't know. Probably not. I really don't know. People have got these days to where they want to tell you what to do and how to do it and make a law against everything, so I don't know. Anyway, back when I was a kid, we didn't worry about things like that. I remember when we lived up in Oklahoma, we had an old hermit named DeWitt Grant. Lived I think sort of northwest of us. And of course, being Hicks, we called him DeWitt instead of DeWitt. But he seldom ever came out of the woods. When he did, he'd ride the school bus into town and pick up some supplies. He'd ride the school bus that afternoon back out to where he could cut through the woods to go to his place. And DeWitt wasn't much on bathing, so you knew when he was on the bus. I guess today he wouldn't be allowed on the bus. Probably another case to call the cops about, you know. But back then, you know, just an old man needed a ride, and that's the way it worked. I remember one time that he come down and got my dad. For a while, he had been living with an old buddy named Herman. And Herman got sick, and I guess finally he just, you know, died on everybody there. And DeWitt come and got my dad to go up there, and they went and dug a big hole, chucked Herman in it because he was dead, you know. And DeWitt needed a little help burying him. They stood around and talked about poor old Herman and how much he suffered before he died and everything. I know Herman probably never even thought about going to the doctor. Couldn't have paid for it if he did. And I don't know that they ever told anybody Herman was dead or where he was buried or anything else. But, you know, like I say, it was a different time, and it didn't help Herman none one way or the other. He was dead, you know. I guess that's the way it goes. Today, though, I have grown up, not afraid of guns, not afraid of people that's got guns. And in fact, I like to play with them. This is my favorite point-and-click device. And for your safety Nazis, look at there. It's empty. There's no bullets in it. But Mr. Ruger made this thing just special for me, and I like to use it for shooting in a steel challenge. I'm not a very good shot. I'm real slow, being old and decrepit and all that. But I enjoy going there and shooting it, and I improve on my shooting a little bit now and then. And someday I might get down to a respectable time. I think we'll make a little pause here while I go clear my throat. Speaking of sparrows and chickens, in West Texas there, we lived in that spot. We had the chicken house out behind the house. All the chickens would go in there to roost at night. Of course, the door was wide open, although they couldn't come and go, you know. And one night my cousin was over, and we took my BB gun and a flashlight out there, and the darn sparrows were roasted in between all the chickens. So we'd just shine a flashlight on them and shoot them with my BB gun, and we'd throw them all in a big old burlap bag, what we called a toe sack. I'm not sure why, that's what we called it. And we got that thing about a fourth full. And this is what, you know, 50 pounds of feed had come in. And when we got through, we took it out and gave it all to my dog. And it was like any dog. He just kept eating and eating until his stomach was swelled out like that, you know. But it gave him a taste for, you know, for birds. He took to liking them, and he'd lay down out in the yard, and the birds would come down and I'd try to run him off from under their nest. And he'd wait until they come at him from the wrong angle, and he'd jump up and snap down on them and go off and eat another bird. So he was able. After that, he was able to take care of himself. When we had all went away, he wouldn't starve. Uh, I don't remember actually my dad ever feeding a dog, now that I think about it, though. They usually made it on what they could find, especially in Oklahoma. Sometimes a little something off the table, but most of the table scraps in Oklahoma went to the hogs. They'd take the dishwater and table scraps stuff and pour it in a 5-gallon bucket, and maybe mix some stuff we call sharts, some kind of a grain that was ground up into a fine meal. Mix all that in with the dishwater and the table scraps and pour it in a trough for the hogs, which the hogs enjoyed a great deal. When I was a kid, living there in Oklahoma in that little house, like I said, there wasn't any plumbing in that house. We had a little house out in the back where you took care of your problems. And in that time, we defecated in the yard and ate in the house. Nowadays, people defecate in the house and eat in the yard, which sounds kind of backwards if you think about it, but that's the way it works. Uh, I guess that no kids will ever have the kind of freedom, though, that I had when I was a kid, able to roam all day out in the woods, do whatever I wanted to. There was a case on the news here the other day. Some woman called because a kid was playing in the park across from their house without any adult standing close by. And I guess the person that called that in would just completely die if they knew I spent all day wandering through the woods with my dog and carrying a loaded .22 rifle. Boy, I'm sure that would shock them completely to death. Uh, Now, there's some things that have improved. Freedom hadn't improved, but comfort has improved. We got better cars. We got better houses. The doctors know how to cure a few things now. Back then, I don't know if they knew how to cure much of anything. And we're just progressing along. Everything gets better every year, material-wise and health-wise and such as that. It's just that modern day seems to be slipping in to sort of take away a lot of personal freedoms that maybe city people then didn't have, and probably city people now couldn't really understand. But that's neither here nor there. Well, the bowling pin shoots this weekend, and I got to load me up some 45 cartridges. So I'll put an end to this. It'd be really nice if you would subscribe and punch the like button and maybe even leave a comment. Nobody ever leaves any comments, so I'm not sure if they like to see my face around here or not. But leave a comment, subscribe, and give me a like if you want to. It's sure making old geezer happy. Thanks for watching.